Hey, what's going on? So today I'm going to be teaching and talking about the 3 most effective exercises for your delts, and of course 3 alternative exercises. Alright, so our first exercise is shoulder press. The shoulder press is going to target your anterior delt. So the question is, what shoulder exercise is the best? So there are many shoulder press exercises, many shoulder press movements. There's a dumbbell press, there's the barbell press, the seated press, and the standing press. Well, to be honest, the best one that will activate your delts the most is the standing dumbbell press. This is because of the increased need for stability in this exercise in the comparison to the other shoulder pressing movements that I just mentioned. So when you use a dumbbell instead of a barbell, it forces you to control the balance of the weight of the 2 objects individually, from swaying from forward and backward, side to side. But when you do a barbell shoulder press, you're only going to have to focus on controlling and balancing the weight of one object, which is the barbell. However, when you use the dumbbells, you have to balance the weights out and in making sure that dumbbells aren't moving independently with each other. And you're going to, of course, have to maintain the different speeds and keep the same tempo throughout the movement for each dumbbell. And you don't want to mess up and dislocate your shoulder because one dumbbell is way over here and one's way over there. Additionally, the standing dumbbell press raises the center of mass in comparison to the seated press. It also provides a smaller base for support. So when you're seated, you have 3 points of contact to help you balance. But when you're standing, you only have 2, which is the feet. And this pretty much forces you to stabilize the movement more on your own. So in order to perform the standing dumbbell shoulder press effectively, you're going to have to do the following steps. Step 1, stand with your feet slightly less than shoulder width apart. Step 2, grab a dumbbell in each hand and start with the dumbbells just below your ear. And step 3, extend your elbows above your head until you reach to the point where your elbow is about to lock out. And I want you to remember to squeeze your traps when you're at this point of the movement, and you contract your traps and your delts. And then of course pause for half a second, contract, and then return to the starting position without letting gravity do the work. You want time under tension here. But remember, don't use leg drive to get the weight up. And of course, don't lean back too much where you're almost doing a backflip. Just a little bit. Just lean back slightly if it helps you get the weight up. And of course, maintain both dumbbells at the same tempo. Alright, so alternative exercises. An alternative exercise that I found very effective in my training is a dumbbell front raise, which involves flexion and the main function of the anterior delt, of course. So in order to perform this exercise, you're going to have to, step 1, stand with a straight torso. Step 2, grab a dumbbell and keep it in front of your body with your palms facing your thighs. And step 3, lift the dumbbell in front of you until it's slightly above being parallel to the ground, and keep a slight bend in your elbow throughout the movement. Don't lock your arms out completely. And of course, the last step is to pause at the top, contract your front delt for about half a second, and bring the dumbbell back down slowly. So you can do this exercise with one arm at a time, alternating, or at the same time. It's up to you, whatever floats your boat. So the next exercise is the lateral raise. The lateral raise will target your medial or side delt. I like to say side delt because it's a lot faster. So we'll be doing this exercise with dumbbells and standing. So using the same stability concept described in the shoulder press section, we're going to go ahead and take these notes and remember that when you do this movement and you want to perform it optimally, you're going to have to do these steps. Step 1, stand with your feet slightly closer than shoulder width apart, keeping your back straight. Start with the dumbbells out to your side or slightly in front of you, as I do right here. And then lift the dumbbells to your side, keeping a slight bend in your elbow. Don't lock them out. And of course, go up until your arms are parallel to the ground and contract that side delt as best you can. And then lower the weight, which is the last step, without letting gravity do the work. But remember, do not allow the dumbbells to hang at the bottom of the movement. You want to have that tension and you want to have that muscle contraction on all portions of the movement. Tilt the dumbbell slightly down as if you're pouring water into a cup to maintain that tension in your medial delt. It's kind of a fun concept to visualize, and once you do it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But most importantly in this exercise, leave your ego at the door and lower the weight if you're swinging way too much. We don't want any kind of swinging going around, otherwise you're bypassing tons of muscular development. So this movement needs to be very controlled and there should be no swinging, okay? So an alternative exercise is the machine lateral raise. This exercise has a lot of the same concept as the free weight lateral raise, except the movement is a little bit more stabilized and controlled, But if you like free weights versus machines and you like the freedom of your joints and your shoulders being able to move at your own desire, that's cool too. All right, so to perform this exercise, you're gonna have to sit facing the machine, grab the handles with the palms facing in, keep your upper arms against the arm pads, and of course, maintain a neutral spine and look forward, not backwards, not up or down. You wanna have that neutral spine. And move your arms up and to the side until your arms are parallel to the floor. Squeeze as hard as you can, get the contraction, and of course pause at the top and return to the starting position without letting gravity do the work. And the cool thing about machines is you have the time under tension. You're always going to be under tension with machines instead of having really gravity do most of the work. So the next exercise we're going to be talking about is a reverse machine fly. Unlike the shoulder press, we want an exercise that is more stable and controlled in order to really target our rear delts. So several studies have shown that this exercise is the best at activating the posterior delt. So in order to perform this exercise optimally, remember this: adjust the handles so that they're fully to the rear. As you see here, it's locked in the last position, and of course it depends with your flexibility. Adjust the seat so that the handles are at shoulder level. Start with your hands on the handles like I'm showing here, the pronated grip, and slightly bend your elbows. Don't keep them locked out. In a semicircular motion, pull your hands back out into your side, keeping the bend in your elbow. And of course, at the end of the movement, contract your rear delt and return to the starting position. So this is another option here, a neutral grip, which studies have also shown that this grip is slightly higher activation of the rear delt. And of course, remember all the steps that I just mentioned for the neutral grip. All right, make sure to get that squeeze and the contraction without having your shoulder being impinged. So whatever is comfortable for you on those settings, you're gonna have to configure. So an alternative exercise for this is the bent over rear delt raise. So in order to do this one optimally, you're gonna have to stand up straight with the dumbbells at each side, maintain a neutral arch of your back, not over hunched over and not way over arched, but lean forward and bend your knees slightly. Let your arms hang in front of you so that you're pretty much perpendicular to the ground, and with a bend in your elbow, raise both arms out into your side and contract at the top. Squeeze your delts, and of course, without letting gravity or swinging, bring the dumbbells back to the starting position. All right, so for this next section, you're gonna wanna pay attention so that you understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing and why these exercises are optimal. All right, so the deltoid is a triangular muscle at the top of your arm. It's comprised of 3 portions. All right, so the anterior delt, otherwise known as a front delt, the lateral delt, otherwise known as the medial or side delt, and of course the last portion is the posterior delt, otherwise known as the rear delt. Each portion of the delt is responsible for specific movement or stabilization of the shoulder joint. Understanding the function of each portion of the delt will help you really understand why certain exercises are the best to target for that part. So the anterior delt is responsible for shoulder flexion and horizontal adduction. Flexion, as demonstrated on the top of the photo, is when you bring your arms up. Horizontal adduction is demonstrated at the bottom of this photo when you bring your arm out in front of you. So the lateral delt takes care of the shoulder abduction, which is pretty much when you bring your arm out and up to the side. The rear delt is responsible for horizontal abduction, which is the opposite of horizontal adduction, if that makes sense. It's when you bring your arm from the front of you and you bring it to the side. All right, quick overview time. Anterior delt. Optimal exercise for this is a standing dumbbell shoulder press, and the alternative exercise is a dumbbell front raise. Also take note that, yeah, of course, the standing dumbbell press is pretty good. It's optimal, it's the most optimal, but just remember that everything has its pros and cons. So for example, with the standing overhead press, with the barbell, you're gonna be able to load that thing a lot more heavier than you would if you were to do individual dumbbells. And it's gonna be a little bit more safer when you do the overhead press, opposed to grabbing like 90 or 100 pounds and doing an overhead press with those dumbbells. So just keep that in mind. All right, so for the lateral delts, The optimal exercise are the dumbbell lateral raise, and of course the alternative exercise are the machine lateral raises. And for the rear delts, aka posterior delts, the optimal exercise is the machine reverse fly, and the alternative version for the exercise is the bent over rear delt flies. Oh, and by the way, here's a 4-day split for the shoulders, including the exercises that we just went over. So I'd highly recommend that you do these about 2 to 3 days out of the week and progressively overload, get stronger and stronger. Add these into the mix and you'll see your shoulders start becoming like boulders. But remember, it all depends on what training routine you're already on. If it's a shoulder emphasized routine, you don't want to overtrain. You just have to be very methodical with the volume that you do and be mindful of that. Oh, and by the way, be sure to check out my other bicep video and back video on how to optimize your training with those exercises and those muscle groups. You're going to be taking your exercises and your training to the next level, okay? So I'll see you there.